Thank you so much. It's a delight being here today, all the sessions, all the content, and all the people. As I've been saying all along, many of you have been working on this for 10 plus years, and it's just so great to see everybody in the same room. So fantastic. So our panel is actually going to be a panel focused on digital public infrastructure, but focused with open source. There is no doubt that open source serves as a foundational enabler for DPI, regardless of where the projects around the world. And we've really convened great 4 panelists to talk about how open source is really driving DPI initiatives. This is across identity, payments, data exchange, and really it's about open specifications and open source software. Many of the discussions throughout the day, every time I came in on a presentation, open source and open standards are just critical to getting these projects deployed and in production. First, I'd like to start with introductions. If everybody could introduce themselves, we have 4 unique organizations here on the stage. So, Ramesh?
Thank you, Daniela. I am Ramesh Narayanan. I am the CTO at MOSIP. We are a university-based project building digital public goods in identity and credential space. And it's been a journey where we have been able to work with the Global South and get several implementations going. And it's been a lot of learning, and which has helped us in shaping some of the specifications work also that is required to serve the needs that are there. And I think this event, collaboration, is a great event. I hope to make many more connects here and figure out more synergy.
Yeah, thanks. So this is Anita Mittal. I lead the Digital Convergence Initiative, in short DCI, for GIZ. So what is this DCI? So DCI is the initiative which promotes interoperability and digital transformation of social protection systems. It is housed under Universal Social Protection 2030, where governments, multilateral partners, and other donors are members. DCI initiative is funded by EU as well as the German government and implemented by 5 partners: GIZ, World Bank, ILO, Expertise France, and FIAP.
My name is Sean Bohan. I'm a community architect at the Linux Foundation. I have the privilege of getting to work with both Daniela and David Goldschneider, and my work includes working with open source software projects in the communities that build them. And thank you all for coming today.
Hello everyone, my name is Ani Bobiashvili. I'm part of the World Bank, and my work has been focused on how can we leverage emerging technologies to tackle some of the development as well as institutional challenges at the bank.
And last but not least, I'll introduce myself. I'm Daniela Barbosa, and I'm the General Manager for Decentralized Technologies at the Linux Foundation. And I also have the honor of being the Executive Director of Linux Foundation Decentralized Trust, which is the home for many of the open source projects, as well as standards like Trust over IP. I'm going to start with you, Annie. And the World Bank and LF Decentralized Trust has partnered over the years quite a bit in your journey in open source and blockchain and DPI. What are some of the key opportunities and challenges in using digital assets, including tokenized assets, to support the development and delivery of DPI in the projects you work on?
Thank you, Daniela. And yes, we have collaborated a lot with Decentralized Trust on different tokenization-related projects. But as we explore DPI and we look at digital assets as well as tokenized digital assets, we see them as kind of 2 layers, such as a foundational layer as well as more sort of a frontier of innovation. So what I mean by that is that digital assets, we can see them as open source software, we can see them as modular platforms or interoperable standards that are foundational layer for DPI, and that help the governments as well as institutions to build systems, the core systems that are focused on payments, digital identity, as well as data sharing platforms. But on the other hand, we see the emergence of tokenized digital assets. And what we mean by that is this: we tokenize digital assets and put them on blockchain or DLT-based solutions. And we can discuss multiple use cases, and a couple of them actually were mentioned today, and we'll discuss more tomorrow. But I want to briefly mention two of them. Firstly is the Bondi, which was piloted a couple years back at the bank, focused on tokenization on bonds to understand the new model of capital raising and distributing it. And the second one is focused on, the second project that I want to mention is the Funds Chain, which is a blockchain-based initiative at the bank, which was just recently piloted a couple months back, focused on end-to-end traceability of the funds for all the development projects that are approved at the World Bank. So these are more on the opportunity side, and now kind of let's take a look on the challenge side, and especially if we are talking of tokenized digital assets, we have to understand that the regulatory framework in many of the jurisdictions is still unclear. The second part, I think interoperability was most used word today, and I have to mention it again. But especially if we are talking of introducing these new financial instruments and tokenized digital assets, we have to understand how we are integrate them into a legacy systems and not to build yet another siloed system and raise the risk of fragmentation. And lastly, I want to mention kind of understanding as these new instruments emerge, what are the new standards associated with the money flow and movement, especially on a cross-border side. So just very quickly to wrap up, right? We have a digital assets, this foundational component, and now we have more innovative approach as part of the tokenization. But in order to fully understand how it can enhance the DPI components, we need to also tackle the challenges that I mentioned on a very high level. Thank you.
And it's great, because it really is an interoperability and just being able to scale these systems as well. These are all ecosystems of ecosystems as digital assets get deployed and used across projects. Ramesh, MOSIP has been at this for a long time. I think it's 6 years now, more than 6 years perhaps, as many of us in the room as well. So what are some of the options that MOSIP has brought to the table available for companies, for countries for their DPI journey?
Right, as I mentioned, we have been working in the identity and the credential space. So we have built a complete identity issuance stack, which brings in the level of assurance that is required for a national ID. And these IDs that can be issued are digitally native. They are not physical documents. There are physical representations that can be issued like cards, but the core ID itself is digital and maintained in a secure repository. That's one work. But then the same ID being issued as a credential started us on a credentials journey, and we have a full-fledged credential stack where you can create certificates or credentials and issue them, and then you can store them on wallets. We are building cloud wallets as well as wallets which can run on Android and iOS phones. And then we have verification SDKs as well as a hostable online verification service that can be used. So this allows the entire credentials-based journey from creation to consumption being addressed through this set of tools. It's called the NG stack. So these are things that we have used, created, and then deployed. NG is deployed in a couple of places. MOSIP itself, the identity platform, is live in 7 different countries at this point of time, with over 130 million people having got their IDs and more in the pipeline. What has been done is made all these are available as standards-based as well as modular solutions so that countries can pick and choose what they want. It doesn't have to be the whole solution. So that's what we have basically brought to the table.
And can you give us examples of some of the countries that you've been working with?
Yeah, in Asia, it's been Philippines, one of the largest adopters. In Africa, Ethiopia and Morocco have gone live and done a lot. Uganda is in the process of rolling out, and there are more who are working with us. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And a question, like how long between deployment and, between starting a project and deployment do you typically see in countries like that?
The capacity building process in the government is a time-consuming thing, but once they have the capacity built and training done, actual rollout of the platform or the implementation can be as fast and rapid as the country wants. During the COVID period, the Philippines managed to register over 30 million people in a matter of a few months. So it's up to the capacity that they actually want to build and do. The software is ready. It's up to standards. It works. It scales. You just need to train and get going.
That's fantastic, and it's a forward-looking application that many countries can take advantage of and learn from each other. So we're very proud of the MOSIP work and how you bring those countries into a digital economy as well. Anita, you obviously have been part of the implementation. So if you can talk a little bit about how the DCI standards specifications complement wallet and VC architecture to promote interoperability, another interoperability comment, and inclusion in social protection sector that you work with.
Thanks. So I think we heard in a previous session in the afternoon that in the health sector, they have this wonderful FHIR and HL7 standards to promote interoperability of different health systems, registries. But when we looked in the social protection sector, there were no standards for interoperability. And seeing this felt need, this DCI was launched as an initiative to promote interoperability in the social protection sector. And when we looked at what interoperability framework to adopt, the EU's interoperability framework is what we took as a base. And this sort of complements the way verifiable credential architecture works, where you provide the data in the hands of the user, and the user is sharing the data with the other system, relying party. Whereas the standards we are developing, it is interoperability of system to system. And I can illustrate a few use cases where these standards are required. Verifiable credentials most likely won't work. So in social protection systems, the countries don't have the financial bandwidth to cater to all the poor people. So what they do is they collect socioeconomic data of all the people and rank them based on poverty level and first cater to the needs of the poorest of the poor. And to collect all this data, they have to reach out to multiple administrative databases to get their tax status, pension, employment. So all this happens through back to system level data collection. Another situation where the system to system level standards are needed is when a social protection program, every country has 30, 40 to 300 programs provided to the poor people. But you want to understand what is the sector offering itself holistically. Then all this data of different beneficiaries is collated through system to system interoperability in something called the integrated beneficiary registry. So we have defined standards for this. And the third important aspect is that these people who are poor also have the challenge of literacy, digital literacy, and also being able to have a smartphone through which they can share their data or to understand what data to share. So quite a few governments are ending up with doing proactive social protection delivery. So they collect data from the back end. Who are the people who are farmers having affected by a flood or a drought and provide money in their accounts directly or provide them vouchers for fertilizer subsidy. And this same model also helps if I just go and say, I'm Anita, the data is fetched with my consent from the systems from the back end without me having to take the trouble of providing the relevant data artifacts. So we have worked on quite a few interfaces to develop standards for interoperability. And the next one, we're working on the ID standards, interoperability standards with social protection systems.
And that's a great overview. So a quick question and quick answer. I think we get this question often is, can digital public good projects work with the private sector? Do you have experiences, and what would you tell the private sector sitting out in the audience today?
Yeah, and I think the open standards are the answer to this question because, in fact, earlier in the session we heard 720 different identity systems have been federated using OpenID Connect as a protocol. Mm-hmm. And those systems are not DPG. Some of them are private sector. Even Microsoft uses the same standard, and we use it day in, day out in our organizations. So I think open standards will allow a level playing field.
Great. Sean's very humble. He called himself a community architect, but he's been in the industry for a long time, and many of you know the great work that he's done. And even in organizing a lot of the talks and bringing the right people to the JDC this week as well. So thank you, Sean, for all that you do for our global community. Why don't you close it off with the importance of open source that's openly developed and openly governed in a neutral foundation, like the Linux Foundation and other foundations that are here today, from your experiences based on what you see some of the digital public infrastructure projects.
Thanks, Daniela. So we only have 3.5 minutes. Sorry, there's not enough time for me to answer that question. The main benefit is the community. The Linux Foundation, and I'm going to blow some minds here, does not have a room full of engineers waiting for projects to show up. I had a colleague tell me that once. Like, no, that's not a thing. We were contributing Hyperledger Indy at the time. They were like, this is great. All these engineers are going to work on our stuff. I'm like, no, we have to build a community. The Linux Foundation provides support. It provides help. It provides a platform for you to find your clan, your audience, the folks who are going to help you build these projects. We also celebrate projects that don't go great. Not every project is going to be the next Linux. It's not every project is going to be the next Hyperledger Indy. That's my project. That's why I can say that. What it does mean is that we work with these projects. We help them find folks who are interested. We introduce them to very large enterprises or governments who might be interested in working with that project. We work on things like this forum here. This event, all credit goes to Daniel and Rolf, but like, this event is amazing, not because of the folks wearing the volunteer t-shirts. They are awesome. It's because of all of you who showed up. And when we talk about open governance, the Linux Foundation provides frameworks for you to work. We work with some of, I'm biased, I love the projects I work with. They're doing great work. But we give them a framework that they can build on and they can build with, and we create opportunities. And then those projects take them and run with it. When I started with the Linux Foundation in 2017, again, I had a colleague who claimed that the LF had a bunch of engineers waiting in the wings. That wasn't true. Since then, in 2017, 2018, those projects were POCs and pilots, and we were dreaming of a day they were in production. I can now say, Digiatra is using some of our code. The Republic of Ireland is using some of our code. Bhutan is using some of our code. Organizations like Oracle are kicking the tires on our projects. And that's the most exciting thing for me. There will never be an OpenWallet wallet. You're never going to have one on your phone or your digital device. But some of the work of this community and these communities who are building these things are going to be in those wallets. And maybe it's that Intel Inside moment, maybe it's something else, but that's something that we really believe in. And that's the power of open source. It's not just permissionless innovation, it is. It's not just no vendor lock-in, kinda. It's no vendor lock-in, anyone can use this. But it's also people who are building these things. And a lot of the work is not in the code, a lot of the work is in the diplomacy of people getting together and working together. And Annette and I have an issue with a certain project, and we're gonna work it out, and then everyone's gonna benefit from that. So there.
That's great. Thank you, Sean. And very quickly, everybody has some additional sessions for next tomorrow. So maybe you can highlight where people can come learn more about your work.
Sounds good. I actually mentioned FunChain, so we will focus on that as part of the blockchain's applications for global digital collaboration at 9:40 in the morning, 8 room, which is actually based on open source blockchain network. So please do come join us and learn more about it.
So we have the ID standards interoperability committee being kicked off, how ID systems can be interoperable with SP systems. This is happening in room number 13 tomorrow from 10:50 to 11:50 a.m.
We have a session on how credentials can be presented in low-tech environments. And this is basically specifically for the Global South. This is on over BLE as well as through QR code kind of presentations. We would like to have your participation and learn from you. Thank you.
Tomorrow at 8:30, I'm with the UNICC. We're doing a session on really incredible things. I can't remember the names of any things I'm working on. Also, I can't give you times because all the times of my sessions have changed 15 times over. But UNICC at 8:30 in the morning. H-Trust, the Multipass team is presenting some of their great work in this room, I believe. There's a session on citizen wallets with Maria Stena and some really great panelists. The Credo team is going to be presenting Credo along with DocuSign, which I'm incredibly excited to see. Brent Zundell is going to do a session on DID standards, which I'll be in along with Hart Montgomery. And, the Wallet Interoperability SIG for the OpenWallet Foundation will be doing a presentation. Shar Howland is in the back. She's my chair of that SIG. Also, the Fork Bomb team is going to present Credit.me. So if you get a chance, please come to any of those sessions. They're all on the board. I couldn't tell you where or when they are anymore because I've changed them over and over again.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, everybody. We also have a booth, Linux Foundation Decentralized Trust. If you're staying for happy hour, please come and visit us. We have the Decentralized Identity Foundation with us. You have folks from Trust Over IP here in the room. Please come visit us, learn about the other sessions that we're sponsoring as well. And thank you, everybody. Thank you to the panelists.